Hi, I'm Ian Runkle, also known as Runkle of the Bailey. In today's video, we're reacting to Open Carry Advocate Unlawfully Detained. Let's have a look.
Who on June 14th of 2021 was open carrying on his way to a fishing spot in Clearwater Beach. He carried a Gadsden flag, a fishing pole, a Glock 23, a concealed SIG P938, and an AR pistol, commonly mistaken as an AR-15 rifle. As he walked through the crowded beach, several people greeted him and somewhat cheered on what he was doing.
How you doing?
I like that, it's kind of like a protest and like...
It's not a protest.
No, I know, but it's like, I don't give a fuck.
Hey, it's like, hey, just respect my constitutional rights.
So we already know that he's out there to cause a bit of trouble, right? He's going out there with a flag, but the thing is so long as he's within his rights to do it, it's okay to do it openly and notoriously. But so long as he's allowed to carry something openly, there's nothing that stops him from waving a flag and doing so in a way where people will notice.
Lifeguard Bradford attempted to speak to Solo, but he didn't want to answer questions, so the lifeguard called for a Clearwater police response.
What up, dude? Yeah, I'm good, dude. I don't want to talk to you.
So he wants to talk to everyone else, but not the lifeguard. That's actually a pretty smart move. I generally recommend against talking to anyone who's in law enforcement or law enforcement adjacent. And the lifeguard seems to be trying to basically step into doing a law enforcement adjacent kind of role.
Boulevard South and Hamden Drive for a male walking with an American flag and a assault-style rifle around him.
In Florida, there is not a permit.
They're calling
to
the Gadsden
carry a
flag an
weapon.
American flag.
Permits are exclusively to allow concealed carry, short of a guard card or in a law enforcement capacity. However, under 790.253H, a person can lawfully carry a firearm if engaged in fishing, camping, or lawfully hunting, or going to or returning from any of those activities. Lieutenant Hasty finds Solo, runs up to him, and grabs his arm. In her report, she writes that he did not resist as the officers detained and disarmed him.
Whoa. Hey, why you got your hands on me?
Oh, her name is actually Hasty.
I know, I'm going fishing. Look, I got a fishing pole.
You're not fishing right now.
I know, I'm going to that fishing pier right there. Why do you have your hands on me, ma'am?
Because I'm waiting for backup.
Nick Nasty?
I generally recommend against saying anything to the police, but the one thing he does articulate here, which is useful, is I'm going to fish at that fishing pier. Therefore, communicating to them, now they ought to know that. That's going to make their case a little more difficult when they're trying to pursue anything against him here.
Okay.
This is against the law.
No, sir, it's not.
Yeah, it is. What is your problem?
You can't be walking down.
I'm walking to go fishing, ma'am. I'm going right to that fishing pier. I'm not breaking the law.
Do you think it's appropriate walking
Yes,
around
absolutely.
with an AR-15 on your
Absolutely.
chest, where there's children and everybody on
Absolutely.
the beach?
Appropriate is the wrong question. There's plenty of things that might be inappropriate, but are still not illegal.
No, I don't want to go call. 901-151. What law did I break? What law did I break?
Listen, there's city ordinances.
I didn't fish here.
Okay.
There's city ordinances, but we can't name them. I mean, this is a dangerous game when you're telling a police officer, I'm not doing what you're telling me to. There's always risk to that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not entitled to do so.
Despite his attempt to reason with Lieutenant Hasty and Detective Kappa, as well as explaining the law to them regarding open carrying while traveling to go fishing, the officers maintain their detention as multiple backup units arrive on scene.
What's the problem with you guys defending your oath to the Constitution of Florida and the United States? I don't have to listen. Am I lawfully allowed to do what I'm doing? Yes or no?
Again, they're not able to articulate anything he's actually doing that's illegal. They're just saying, we're getting people calling. You're being a pain in the butt. For any police officers out there, you should be able to actually explain why you're arresting somebody, what they've actually violated. I know there's a lot of laws out there, but this is the crux of what you do.
What's your name? Am I lawfully allowed to do what I'm doing?
He's not telling them his name because he doesn't have to. He's talking more than I'd recommend typically, but so far he hasn't given up anything that is a real problem for him.
So I'm going to that
You need an AR-15 to go fishing.
You don't need to know why.
I'm just asking
You don't need to know a reason.
That is the right response. None of your business. He doesn't have to provide a justification because you don't have to justify your actions to the police.
Can you give me a reasonable answer for that?
Yes, I've almost been robbed while I've been fishing. I need whatever I need to protect myself.
Okay.
Oh, you were doing so well. Just say, hey, it's none of your business. That would have been the right answer. I don't like that he answers that question with anything, because now he's increasing the chance that he gets into trouble.
Just being detained. You're not under arrest.
All right.
He's not under arrest? Sir, you're putting handcuffs on him. That looks to me like an arrest.
What law did I break? Am I allowed to go fishing while hunting, fishing, or camping? Yes or no?
You seem to know it pretty well.
I know it. I'm going fishing to that fucking fishing pier, you dumb shit.
Now that is almost always a bad approach. Even when you are 100% in the right, escalating by swearing at the officers, you can end up injured in ways that money can't compensate you for.
Why you gotta be all nasty for it?
Why am I in handcuffs?
Very respectful.
Why are you
really detained?
Why are you?
Police know this too, and that's why the police officer's going, why do you have to be all nasty? I'm being respectful. He's playing that particular game better than our guy on the video here.
You're a bunch
You're
of
in the
pieces.
safe place right now.
No, I'm
We will
not.
protect you.
No, you're not protecting me. You're stripping me of my rights.
Okay, so this is funny. The officer can't figure out the sling. Now, I'm just gonna bet that he's got a quick detach sling because it's a very common feature. We're seeing this officer clearly lacking in firearm knowledge on one of the most common platforms. So that's not a great sign.
You serve, sir?
Don't worry about if I serve.
I did.
You guys.
Officer Moore tells Solo that he served in the military, which should only hold him more accountable. His declaration only makes him look even more ridiculous as he removes the weapon sling in the most difficult way possible, as it is affixed with a quick detached swivel.
Called it. And yeah, if he's in the military, he should really know how to do that.
What's your name?
Don't worry about what my name
Okay,
is.
well, I was just going to ask if you could just hang out with us for a little bit.
I don't want to hang out with you.
I'm just going to ask if you can hang out with us for a little bit. Cut the crap. You've got him in handcuffs, dude. And we've got this guy in the background there with the most sort of police officer mustache. I don't like this whole, could you hang out with us? Well, are you really saying he's got an option? Because he's been asking to leave and just be left alone.
That's all I was doing, is going fishing.
Okay.
And I was walking to go fishing.
So you weren't trying to get a reaction out
No,
of people?
I don't.
Walking this entire span of people?
See, he probably was trying to get a reaction out of people. But okay, if he's within the law, that's fine.
Solo reiterates that he does not want to identify or stay with the officers.
I don't know what to call you.
Don't worry about what to call me, dude. I'm lawfully allowed to go where I'm going.
I don't know what to call you is an effort to get him to ID himself. Like just with a first name, that can be enough for them to put two and two together.
The officers eventually bring Solo to their cruiser, and as Solo is placed into the vehicle, Officer Moore inspects his weapon, and despite his military experience, he shows absolutely zero muzzle awareness, and negligently points the AR pistol.
Oh no. You've got to be aware at any time when you're handling a firearm of basically the line of what it could shoot. And right now, he just pointed this directly at the guy they're stopping, as well as a fellow officer, as well as the rest of the beach. That should be muzzled down at all times.
Don't mess with my... Dude, you're pointing my gun in my direction, sir. And there's one chambered in there. Whatever, dude. Never need to point a firearm at somebody.
The officers huddle up and share some smiles over the encounter.
They're all smiles now. Let's see if they're smiles later.
After a few minutes, they attempt to have him identify again, during which the officer claims he is aware of the law and that they need to determine whether Solo is a felon despite having any reasonable suspicion of criminal activity or probable cause to effect an arrest.
901-151. 911-1...
Are you going to let me talk?
Nope. Let me out of this car. Give me my stuff back.
We have to verify that you're not a convicted felon.
They don't, though. We don't actually seem to have an offense he's committing, which means he shouldn't be locked up in the back of this car.
Are you refusing to identify yourself?
I'm not refusing anything. Right now, I am not breaking the law.
Or are you going to tell me who you are?
I am not breaking the law. I've already contacted my lawyer.
Okay, that's fine.
I can tell you, as a lawyer, those phone calls are not very effective. You can tell them, hey, this is the law, you should let this guy go, but they're already choosing not to do that.
What law?
Are you going to identify yourself?
Law did I break? And I will identify myself.
And the cop is thinking, this guy's such a jerk. He's making me identify, what grounds I have to hold this guy. They're hoping that they'll run his name and it'll come up with something to justify what they've already been doing.
Solo refused to identify himself as he had not committed a crime. However, because of his live stream, multiple viewers began calling the department to urge them to release him. One of the callers gave his name, and the department ran his information to clear him as a prohibited person, despite lacking a lawful reason to do so.
The guy you have arrested, his name is Michael Taylor.
Yeah, if I'm ever arrested on a live stream, please don't call to help. Let me handle it. Let my lawyer handle it. This guy, I'm sure, is trying to be helpful, but he's mucking with what's going on here, and it could have actually caused problems.
It's an open carry activist in Florida, so just try to get a hold of that officer and get him out of handcuffs.
I can guarantee that pretty much the only things that got communicated there were activist and the guy's name.
The officers realized they had messed up and released Solo with his weapons.
Oh, you're starting to figure it out, huh? Oh, I got ya. It looks like they're starting to get phone calls from people that I know.
You can also see that their facial expressions are a lot less happy.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Hi, Michael, you ready?
Yeah, I've been ready. What's your name and badge number?
Oh, my name's Officer Buse. Do you want me to take those handcuffs off?
Yeah, I want the handcuffs off. What's your name? Spell it for me. Get my handcuffs off. What's your name?
Put your gun right.
And spell your name.
DRUMMOND.
And your badge number?
308.
I'm actually surprised, and I'll give the officers points for they are identifying themselves, because in a lot of these interactions, you see officers say things like, oh, you don't need to know my name, you don't need my badge number, that kind of thing, whereas these officers are going, yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
You want me to explain to you?
I don't want an explanation because you guys are all a bunch of tyrants. Did you swear an oath to the Constitution and the Florida Constitution?
Oh, he's going to do a victory lap. This is not usually a good idea, but I mean, I'm sure it's going to feel good for him, so it may not play out well. We'll see.
Of Florida. Did you swear an oath to the Florida Constitution and the state laws that we have here? I just want to, I'm taking my guns, I'm going to reload them. Everybody, I'm reloading my guns.
Can I ask that you do it over here out
Shut
of the
up.
public?
Dude, you guys took my sling off, dude. Are you kidding me?
I'm not super happy with his muzzle control, but it's still better than the officers. He's been keeping it pointed down. It lifted a little bit, but it was still on a trajectory towards beach rather than towards humans. Still better than the cops by a long shot.
All you had to do is take the QD off my... You're dumb. You're dumb. You're dumb. You're dumb.
Don't point it at me.
I'm not pointing my gun at you. It's pointed at the fucking ground.
Please don't point it at me, he says, when it's not come anywhere close to him. And in fact, the only person who's negligently pointed a firearm is the officers.
Michael, are you
Shut the up.
fishing now?
I was on my way to fishing, you dumb.
Don't get your flag and your fishing pole.
Shut the up. I can redress my
You're causing
government.
people- you're causing people to look
redress
at us.
my government in any way, shape, and form.
You're causing people to look at it. Are you kidding? Like, of course people have been looking this entire time because you've got, I don't know, 5, 6 cops here clearly making a scene.
You, and you.
And that's how you get people to leave Clearwater.
Making it clear that they're
Ooh, that's not a good look. That's not a good look at all. That suggests that maybe they were hassling him just for the purpose of hassling him. Don't say things like that when you're on record and you're violating someone's rights.
Lieutenant Hasty wrote on her report that while Solo was detained, she looked up the statute and found that she was wrong, but claimed in her report that a reasonable and prudent person wouldn't walk around in front of other people with an AR-style firearm.
You don't have to be reasonable and prudent. That's not the standard for lawfulness.
In fact, it seems as though most law enforcers are completely uneducated on the law.
All right. I mean, I'm from Canada, which has very different rules, but you end up with similar interactions where you've got people who have been abiding by the law in ways that make people uncomfortable. I had a case of somebody who just went and bought a machete and was carrying it home in plastic. You shouldn't be afraid of a machete that's in plastic, but nevertheless, the police decided that that was something that they had to intervene on. This kind of stuff happens. You know, you may not agree with this guy, but fundamentally, he's got rights and he's exercising them. You know, rights exist to protect behavior that we may not like, that we may consider obnoxious even. Like, if you think this guy's obnoxious, that's what rights are there to protect. Rights don't just exist to protect conduct you agree with. You know, if you want to say that you are a defender of a particular right, then you need to stand up for it, even in situations where you're like, that person is a jackhole, but they're within their rights. I suspect that this guy was provoking a confrontation, but okay, he's allowed to so long as he's within the statute, and it looks like he was. The other thing is, I don't know where this guy lives. You know, I was assuming earlier that he's parked at one lot nuts that he'd have to walk up. Maybe he just lives down the way and then just walks there because it's the most convenient route. Most importantly, the cops certainly don't know that. They don't know where he's coming from. They don't know why he's taking any particular route. They're making an assumption. Anyway, I guess those are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure you check out these 2 other videos. Please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to see more content, and see you next time.
Big verdict.